Greetings, talkers and seekers. Welcome back to the chat. The G20 summit has officially wrapped up here in South Africa. World leaders came, took their photos, shook hands, delivered their usual polished, empty speeches, and then boarded their planes home. Meanwhile, on the ground, outside the cameras, outside the VIP lounges, everyday South Africans were raising real concerns. One of the loudest among them was the ongoing crisis of gender-based violence. We tackled that in our last episode, and many of you responded with pain, anger, and urgency. Well, today, even though the summit is over, the conversation cannot be, because GBV does not clock out when the G20 closes. It does not pause when the world stops watching South Africa. It persists quietly, violently, in ways that official narratives rarely address. And today, we're turning to a side of this issue that almost never gets spoken about. A corner of GBV that society has aggressively ignored, men as victims of gender-based violence. And to help open this conversation with honesty and depth, a South African man who wishes to remain anonymous sent us a letter. He trusted the chat with his story, and today, with his permission, I want to read it to you. Brother, if you're watching, thank you. Thank you for your courage. Thank you for trusting us with your truth. And I hope I can do your intentions justice. Dear the chat, I'm writing first to thank you, sincerely, for the work you've been doing. Your episodes have been thought-provoking, timely, and deeply relevant to the issues unfolding around us in real time. I've recommended your channel to friends, and many have become regular viewers. Please continue this important work. One of your recent episodes, where you discussed gender-based violence, resonated with me more than you may realize. I want to speak on a part of the GBV conversation that is almost never addressed: men as victims. GBV is not a one-way street. It is not a phenomenon that exists only when men harm women. It happens on both sides, but the violence affecting men almost never appears in any census, any statistic, or any advocacy campaign. And that's not because it doesn't exist. It's because men have been silenced. A man cannot easily speak about being abused by a woman. We are mocked. We are dismissed. We are told to man up. And in many places, especially in South Africa, going to the police as a man to report abuse is almost guaranteed to end in laughter, disbelief, or even suspicion that you are the abuser. I want to share a part of my own experience. I once found myself involved with a woman I never pursued romantically. What was meant to be a brief, casual encounter somehow became a relationship, without my consent and without any regard for my boundaries. She imposed it on me. Very quickly, she became obsessive, controlling, and abusive. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere unless I lied about it because she insisted on coming along or policing my movements. Clothes of mine went missing, items she claimed she wanted me to look good in, yet she sabotaged any attempt for me to present myself well. When I tried to step back or detach, she refused to leave my life without threats of violence. She threatened to show up at my workplace and create scenes. Even worse, she began faking screams inside my home so that neighbors would hear her, setting up situations that could easily be used to falsely accuse me of physical abuse if I ever decided to leave. At one point, she even broke a bottle over my head. By some miracle, maybe adrenaline, maybe shock, I didn't feel the pain, but the bottle shattered. That could have ended very differently. Yet I could not go to the police. In South Africa, a black man reporting abuse by a woman is laughed at, dismissed, seen as weak, or worse, presumed guilty on arrival. The risk of being labeled the abuser, despite being the victim, is very real. This is why the statistics are so skewed. This is why society sees GBV as something only men do, because men are not allowed to speak, and when they do, they are told their pain doesn't count. The idea that men simply wake up and choose violence is a lie. In many relationships, on both sides, violence emerges from obsession, jealousy, mistrust, manipulation, and emotional instability. But only one side's suffering is acknowledged, and only one side is allowed to seek justice. My point is simple. If we want real solutions to GBV, we must look at it in a holistic, honest, circular way, not a one-sided narrative, not a politically convenient angle. And as we advocate for the safety of women, which is absolutely necessary, we must also create space for men to be heard, to be protected, to be valued, and to be taken seriously as human beings whose lives matter. Thank you for reading my letter and for giving a voice to stories like mine. Sincerely, a concerned South African man. That was heavy. And to the man who wrote that letter, once again, thank you. But let me say something that needs to be said clearly. There are far more men living this nightmare than society is willing to admit. Far more men suffering silently. Far more men trapped in abusive relationships, manipulated, controlled, degraded, struck, threatened, with absolutely nowhere safe to go. And if you're a man watching this from anywhere in the world, you already know why we don't hear these stories. Because men are not allowed to be victims. Because when men ask for help, they get laughed at. Because when men report abuse, they get turned into suspects. Because the world has become so misandrous, so ideologically distorted that men's pain is treated as a joke, or worse, an inconvenience. And the result? There are almost no statistics on male victims of GBV because the system chokes those numbers out of existence. There's no census. There's no advocacy. There are no marches. There's no purple ribbon for men. Men are expected to hold the pain, the scars, the fear, the trauma, all in silence, because letting it show is unmanly and reporting it is embarrassing. And while men are mocked for suffering, real tragedies unfold in total silence. Let me give you a fresh example, one that should outrage this entire country. Just days ago, a South African man named Sichavo Ntsanwisi, 31 years old, was stabbed to death by his girlfriend, a 22-year-old woman who admitted to the crime. And what happened next? Did the country erupt in outrage? Did we see the same national energy that we see when a man harms a woman? No, the story barely circulated. And worse, she was given 10,000 Rand bail, and she is now walking free. This man's life, gone. His family, shattered. His memory, already fading from public concern because the perpetrator was a woman. This is what our anonymous writer meant when he said, men are not valued. And he wasn't lying. My deepest condolences to the Ntsanwisi family, to the friends, the colleagues, the community, and to every man whose story never made headlines, whose suffering went unrecorded, whose pain has never been acknowledged. You are not forgotten, not here, not on the chat. Let me close with this. GBV is not a women-only issue. GBV is not a men-only issue. GBV is a human issue, and until leaders and activists treat it that way, South Africa will continue burying sons and daughters while pretending progress is being made. This system must change. The policies must change. The attitudes must change. And the silence, especially around male victims, must end, because no country can heal when half its victims are forbidden to speak. This has been The Chat. Stay safe, stay thoughtful, and to every man living this reality, you matter, your pain matters, and you are not alone. The Chat, we out.